If you're designing a workshop, like, is there a blueprint that you follow, such as there's a beginning, middle, end? Could you break that down for us a little bit?
Yeah. Yes. Beginning, middle, end, always important. Beginning really to connect to the purpose, to make sure, okay, does everyone understand why they're here? What's the purpose of the session and what's their own why? So why are they spending time and attention at this point in time? And then I usually start with I call it turn to your neighbor moment, where I want people to get to use their vocal cords as early as possible. And knowing that people might either feel hesitant to speak in front of everyone because it's difficult, or the group is just too large. And there's nothing worse than, okay, now everyone introduced themselves. And after number 3, nobody listens and nobody's interested. So turn to your neighbor is, even in an online call, the most natural thing we do once we arrive somewhere. We sit down, we turn to our neighbor and say hello. So I do this in all my online calls. Start with a turn to your neighbor moment. The Zoom gods will decide who your neighbor is. Spend 4 minutes answering a question, come back. Everyone comes back with a smile, cameras on. And then I think of the outcome. So what is the very end? I always design next checkout or the harvest, the final harvest. And then depending on what was the goal or the purpose of the session, I think what needs to happen in the stage before so that we can achieve that, so that we can check out and talk about the things we put on our to-do list or the next steps or our commitments or our takeaways. And thereby I design through backward induction what needs to happen throughout the workshop so that the outcome of one activity becomes the input for the next activity. So every activity must have a purpose that is linked to the higher purpose of the workshop. Yeah, so usually I start with the beginning and the end, and then I fill the middle part. And then obviously or maybe not obviously, hopefully obviously, starting with divergent thinking means first creating many ideas and then thinking, okay, amongst these many ideas, where do we want to focus? So then convergent thinking, discussing in small groups.
Disruptive people in a group. What's your go-to techniques for that?
Embracing them. Mostly because, so I have 2 strategies. One is when I work for a client, I have conversations with all the participants beforehand. And thereby I already build a kind of personal relationship and I get a sense of their personality type. And then very quickly and when we think of challenging behavior, it's usually those who know it all, speak a lot. We've discussed this for 20 years already, but nobody has ever listened to me. Why do we have to discuss this again? And the reason for this kind of behavior is usually because either they don't know why they are there, so they don't understand their role, and hence they disrupt and are like, I have talked about this for the last 20 years. Why are all of you here? And then it's important in this pre-conversation to really connect them to the content and to the purpose and to make sure, okay, what is your role? You've been talking and thinking about this for the last 20 years. Fantastic. How can we use this knowledge in a positive way in this workshop? And then suddenly they have a role, they're proud, and they don't need to talk that much and to disrupt. Or there are those who have to re-emphasize everything and speak significantly more than others. Very often they're aware of that. And very often they give me permission to interrupt. They say, or they extrapolate it on the entire group. One thing you must know about us is we all love to talk and you need to interrupt us. So what I would say at the beginning is, okay, I'm German. I'm the timekeeper. I know that you all love to talk and we have a mission to complete. So don't take it personal. But there might be moments where I interrupt you in service of the higher goal. And then I ask them for permission. They laugh a bit. And then I put my German hat on and wave with the clock from time to time. And then they laugh about it and it's good. So I think the most important thing is to acknowledge that nobody wants to be the disruptor, the bad guy, or the challenger. They all have their own agenda and they want to achieve something through that behavior. And very often is that they don't feel heard. So you need to give them the feeling that they're heard.